news for September 26, 2025. I am Brett Burney from appsinlaw.com.
And this is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. As I'm sure you know, Brett, today, everybody around the country is probably celebrating today because it is homecoming at where I went to school, Isidore Newman in New Orleans, and my daughter, who's a senior this year. So we're recording a little late today because we had a homecoming breakfast this morning. I'm wearing my school colors, green, green, because it's the Newman Greenies, as you know. So I'm sure you and the rest of the country will be cheering for the Newman Greenies in tonight's game.
I've got a nice reception scheduled for later today. It'll be good. At which I'll be bringing my brand new Apple products. This is what I wanted to start off with. I mean, the homecoming is important as well. Don't get me wrong. But we have both now had our brand new Apple products for a week. We both have a new iPhone 17 Pro. You have the Max. We both have the brand new AirPods Pro 3, which amazing. We're going to start with those. I have my new Apple Watch Ultra 3. I mean, we are rolling in Apple this week, but let's do that because in your post today, of course, you did a great job of aggregating links from around like different reviews. I mean, by this time now, we've seen multiple reviews that people have done, including one from a good friend of mine, Jeff Richardson, on iPhoneJD.com, AirPods Pro 3. I thought your review was excellent, Jeff. You did a great job going down, showing the differences even between the AirPods Pro 2 and the Pro 3. I mean, I hadn't really even started like pulling off my little tips on the AirPods Pro 3, but this one picture that you showed here really shows how much different the AirPods Pro 3 are. And then just going into the betters of the AirPods Pro 3, better battery life, better noise cancellation, just better in multiple areas. I have been thrilled already. Probably more. I would even maybe say more than my phone or my new watch. These new AirPods, Jeff, I really think are some of the most amazing upgrades that Apple has done this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the sort of thing that on one level, it's like, they're just a little bit better from all the features, like you said. And even I think that a lot of people on the street, I mean, you look at the two cases, like I just showed in that picture right there, or even if you look at the actual little things, they don't look from first look. They don't look that different. And it's only when you dig deeper. In fact, you mentioned the thing about the tips. I saw this in some Apple article. I don't know, or maybe it was in the instructions. I had never known this before, but these tips can be tough to get off. And one of the reviews that I linked to today actually said, oh, well, you need to unfold the end of the tip. No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
What Apple says is if you take any sort of a cloth, like I got an iPhone JD one right here, but any sort of a microfiber cloth, and you use a microfiber cloth to hold onto it, they come right off.
It just pops right up.
It just pops right up.
I'm so glad you showed that. Yeah.
That is a huge tip. Now that I know that, I'm like, oh, it's so simple. Because in the past, I'm like, how do you get them off? So do you want to find the side that works with you the best? And of course, when you take them off, you can see, and I have a picture of it right there, that one of the big differences is it's got that little nub that sticks out. And so the speaker portion of the AirPod, I mean, it's a fraction of an inch longer, but when you're talking about inside of your ear, it gets a little bit deeper into your ear. And that, along with the tip itself, which is a little bit smaller, so it goes deeper, and it's got that foam in the inside of it. But, the end result is it's sort of like all things occur because of these design changes. It means, first of all, that the fit is different, which I like. When I first put it in my ear, Brett, I'm like, so much better. And
you can tell immediately. As soon as I put it in my ear, I could tell an immediate difference. Like all of a sudden, I felt like I didn't even turn noise cancellation on, and just putting them on my ear, I was like, "Oh, that's different. That's better." Immediately.
And most of the reviews that I've read, people have said this is better. But I will tell you, and in fact, I think even when I did my post last night, I was even talking about how the review's pretty good. As I was driving into work this morning from that homecoming thing, I was listening to the to one of the podcasts I listened to, and they were talking about I actually find that they are less comfortable because of this new design. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just it just goes to show that everybody has different everybody has different ears, right? So there's no one design that's going to be better for everybody. But what everybody does seem to agree is whether you prefer it, like I do, and I think most people do, or if you don't, it's different, like you say, because it goes deeper into your ear, and it fills up your ear just a tiny bit more. And that's also the reason why a lot of people are saying that whatever size tip you used to use, you might be going down one size. If you used to be a medium, you may not be a small. And if you used to be a small, you may not be an extra small. But when you find that, because it goes a little bit deeper and stuff, not only does that affect the fit, I believe in a good way, but that's a personal preference, but that also adds to the noise cancellation, because they say the noise cancellation, and the tests show this, like objectively, it is twice as much noise cancellation, and you notice it. And it's also, it affects the sound stage. I find, and again, I'm not an audiophile, and I would never notice this unless I go back and forth. But when I went back and forth listening to the same songs, I'm like, well, first of all, the bass is a little bit fuller. Now, again, it's not going to be as much as if you're in a room with like 5.1 surround sounds with a subwoofer and stuff like that. But for AirPods, it's a little bit more pronounced. And what I particularly like, because I don't listen to songs with a ton of bass that much, but you know, if you have a song, if you have music that has like different instruments and you sort of want like that crisp, you want to hear each instrument individually. When I went back and forth, I'm like, you know what? I'm enjoying the music a little bit more with AirPods Pro. And again, don't get me wrong. If you have AirPods Pro 2, or maybe even good. AirPods Pro 1, I'm not saying it's a revolutionary change, but you know what? It's a little bit better sound. It's a little bit better noise cancellation. It's a little bit better Find My, for example. You know, I did the test that, you know, if I'm a couple rooms away in my house, I can't find the AirPods Pro 2, but I can totally find the AirPods Pro 3 because they're a little bit stronger. One thing that I haven't tested, but I don't know if this is just my imagination, but you know how sometimes you'll put your iPhone down in a room and then you'll walk around your house and you'll do tasks like that. You know, at some point you get far enough away from your iPhone that the music or the podcast, whatever you're listening to, sort of cuts out.
Sure.
It seems to me like I can go a little bit further. I haven't done that enough to test, and I haven't even researched whether that's just my imagination or not. But it's just one of those examples of every little thing is just a little bit better. And so it's nice. It's a luxury. Now, again, do you need to spend $250 to have a slight increase? You know, that's totally up to you. What I love about it is I wear my AirPods all the time, and I know that this is going to be the high-end model for the next 3 years. And so, like, I'd like to have something a little bit better in a million different ways for the next couple of years. And so I'm thrilled that I have them. Now, having said that, I'm holding my AirPods the Pro 3 in my hand because as I'm talking to you at my office on my PC, I'm still using my old AirPods 2 just because I haven't yet connected them. And I sort of like the idea that this one's on my Mac products and my older one's on my PC. But so again, it's not like it is oh, this is the most incredible thing ever, you have to upgrade, but it's nice. It's a nice upgrade.
Definitely nice enough. Like I said, I immediately felt and heard or didn't hear a difference as soon as I put them in. When I went into noise cancellation, definitely immediately could tell that it was a better noise cancellation than before. And I'm almost can't wait. I think I'm traveling tomorrow and on a plane, and I'm like, I can't really wait to try this out, because sometimes there would be things that would kind of bleed through, and I just know that this is going to be better. Just quickly, let's go back to that fit component on there, because you did a good job of talking about this. You have used third-party tips in the past because you wanted to have foam tips that would fit better in your ear. And historically, with AirPods, Apple has always provided like 3 tips, right? There was the medium size that was already on the AirPods when you got them, but then they had like a smaller and a larger set, I believe. Is that right?
That was the AirPods Pro. The original AirPods Pro had 3 tips.
Okay.
The one that came out 3 years ago, the AirPods Pro 2, had 4 tips.
Oh.
And then now we have 5 tips.
Five total, which is weird because, and I think we talked about this last week, you've got like I guess what I would call the medium size, or the normal average size comes on the AirPods themselves. And then you've got this cute little packet that they send where it's not just one large and one large. There's a large size, which is bigger. And then there's 3 sizes that are smaller than the medium size, small, correct, X small, and XX small on there. I haven't tried all of them because, frankly, I ran into exactly that issue. Like, I couldn't easily get these tips off. But, man, I can't wait now because I will try them. But you've gone back and forth and tried not just multiple ones, but you've got 2 different sizes on each of your ears now, and that works better for you.
I really think it does. And again, it seems weird to me to have different sizes of my ears. But that's actually what I'm doing. So I have my left ear is the medium, the one that came on it, but in my right ear, I'm wearing the large. And I may continue to go back and forth. I mean, when I did that test that you can
Yeah.
do with the ear pods and it tells you whether you have a
Right.
good seal, I get green. I get a good seal with either the medium or the large in my right ear. So it's just a question of what feels better and what feels like it's not going to come out of my ear. But I think I'm going to stick with it. But again, I can go back and forth, and I like the, that's for me. And so again, just think about that and I'm not the only one. I mean, I was just mentioning that other people have been talking about these and stuff, and I've heard other people say that yeah, I have like a small in one ear and an extra small in the other ear. So I guess
Yeah.
maybe the deeper you go in your ear, and again, it's not that much deeper, but it's a little bit more than before. It's just nice to have those choices. And Apple, I mean, to have 5 different sizes. And Apple is clearly trying to make this work better. They put that in their press release. They said that we have worked to make this fit more ears, and that is their aim. So, so yeah. So
Nice.
if in the past you have found that it's not perfect, consider this. And I'll also say, as I talk about the changes, I heard an interesting thing I heard 2 different people say this on podcasts over the last week that they own the AirPods Max, the ones that
Yes.
go
Over the
big over
ears.
your ear, like your Princess Leia with the buns on your side of your head. Um, I've heard 2 people say that they have been on planes. I haven't been on a plane since I got these last week. And they have said that I feel like the AirPods Pro 3 with the improved noise cancellation is just as good as the AirPods Max,
Really?
which
Oh boy.
surprised me
Okay,
to
I
hear
can't wait.
because for something
Yeah.
that is obviously so big and on top of your head, but I mean, that's what they said. I mean, we'll see what people, and of course,
Interesting.
the downside of the AirPods Max is that they're so big. That's like a big case to carry around and
I
stuff.
know. That's
So
why I don't
if
like
you
them.
can get
Yeah.
something that's just about as good in terms of noise cancellation when you're trying to get that white noise on an airplane, and as small as an AirPods, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good selling point. So
I
again, I
can't
know
wait.
others may disagree and say that's better. And I've also seen people say that, they think that Sony's, and I forget what model because I don't keep up with all the Sony brands, but that there are certain Sony brands that might have noise cancellation, although they're more expensive than the AirPods, that there's a little bit better Sony's. So, I mean, I'm not
Right.
saying that the AirPod Pro 3 is the best noise cancellation you can get for your ears, but they're really good and they're improved from before. And so if noise cancellation is good for you, that's something to think about. I'll mention one more thing when we talk about that. For a long time now, maybe a year or two, I'm curious what you do, Brett. You know how there's the 3 different modes for AirPods. There is, let's see
Yes.
if I have this right. There is transparency.
I
There
mean,
is, I think it's called adaptive, and then
adaptive.
there
That's right.
is noise cancellation. For a
Correct. You
long
got
time
it.
now, I have had adaptive turned off. I have just gone back and forth between transparent
Oh,
and noise
really?
cancellation. But I
Okay.
heard I think it was in the Accidental Tech podcast this week, they were saying, you know what? The new adapt because all of those are different with the AirPods Pro 3.
Yeah.
Um, and they said that if you haven't tried adaptive in a while, check it out on these new AirPods Pro 3 because
Oh,
it's
yes.
really good. And
Oh,
so
yes.
just last night,
Agreed.
I switched. So instead of on my AirPods Pro 3, instead of going back and forth between transparent and noise cancellation, I'm going to now try for a couple of days going back and forth between adaptive. And they say that adaptive works pretty well. I mean, I guess, and you tell me more because if you're using it,
Oh,
the
yeah.
idea of
I do.
adaptive is that
Yeah.
it's sort of like transparency, but it will also, if like really no loud and obnoxious noises come in, it will bring in
Exactly.
a little bit of noise cancellation just so that the outside world's not so obnoxious. Did I state that correctly?
Absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
that's how I've talked about it and think about it all the time. It's almost like my bionic ears. So first of all, there's actually a fourth uh factor that you could get in there. You could turn everything
You could
off.
turn everything off, but I
You
don't see
can
why you'd
turn
want to
everything.
do
I
that.
know, and
Yeah.
but what you can do, and what I usually do is like in your phone when you program these, you can
Hmm.
press and hold the stem of the AirPod, right? And
Right,
that's how
right,
you
right.
can go back and forth between them, and you can program how many you want to go back and forth. I've
Hmm.
always done all 3 of them. So if I press
Oh,
and
okay,
hold,
okay.
it will go transparency, press and hold, go to adaptive, press and hold, go to noise cancellation, press and hold again, it goes all the way to the back to the transparency. Now, I use transparency if I'm like maybe running on the street and I want to hear the cars and everything,
Right.
or I just want to have music in the background, but I still want to hear what's going on around the house. For me, adaptive is like if I'm walking downtown Chicago and I know there's going to be an ambulance is going to come by, somebody honks, there's going to be a jackhammer over there, a construction noise. I get on a train, I still want to hear what's going on around me. But when the train starts up from a stop, it gets much, much louder. And I know that I can't hear any. So what happens then is that it lessens that. It doesn't go all the way to noise cancellation, but it'll lessen that loud noise to where I can still hear, even if it's a conversation or something, but it cuts out some of those absolutely loud noises. So if I'm walking down the street, I have this in, I hear a siren coming, and normally I would like maybe want to plug my ear before while it passes me, but now in the adaptive mode, it will just lessen that siren as it goes by, and I can still hear what's going on, but it just kind of muffles it, if you will, kind of just puts it down.
Yeah.
Whereas noise cancellation, I'm like in a cocoon, right? I'm in my own bubble there, and I can't hear anything. And it's obviously in those cases, that's not safe when you're walking on the street or something in those minds. So I've always been switching back and forth, or going in a circle with all three of those modes. And I love adaptive mode because once the siren passes, then it comes back up. In other words, I can hear a little bit more what's going on. But if anything was suddenly to happen or some kind of a noise, it'll immediately start muffling that. And I just love it. I mean, to me, it's like that's just an amazing way to continue on with my life, but know that whatever loud noise happens isn't going to affect my hearing all that much.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it a shot again, and we'll see.
Please do. I want to hear.
A long time ago, I had decided that I was just happier with transparency mode, but I'm going to switch back because people are saying that it's a little bit better for the AirPods Pro 3. So
I would agree with that.
Maybe I'll be back into it. So anyway.
Okay, a couple of other things you mentioned, you linked to here. You said you're not an audiophile, but you linked to a great article today from a person that is an audiophile and maybe not really necessarily an Apple fan. Is that right? This is audio reviews. Here it is. This is what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
AirPods Pro 3 review for you from the cheap seats here. He has tested dozens and dozens of similar type headphones, and he is impressed. As an actual professional audiophile, he's impressed with the sound quality in this. Not to we're not talking about the noise cancellation necessarily now. He's just very excited about the actual sound, the audio sound coming out of these.
There's been a few reviews. This was the only one I linked to today, but I've seen a few of them this week of people that, I don't remember if this article had it or some of the other ones. They have these pictures where they show something that looks like a head, like a mannequin head, like, you're going into a store and you see a mannequin, and it's it looks to me like a mannequin head, but what it is actually is it's a special device that senses the sound waves of the things coming through. And those people are like, that's way beyond me. If you've got specialized equipment that tests headphones and stuff like that. And those reviews have said, oh, what Apple is doing with these AirPods Pro 3 is pretty impressive. And again, I don't know that I have got the sensitivity to appreciate it unless, like I said before, I'm directly going back and forth, which I never do in real life. But reviews like this one have from Jürgen Kraus. A nice German name there. They've said, even if you're really into headphones and high-end stuff, like, Apple's done something really cool here. And so that makes me feel good. I mean, it's nice to know that, when I'm just listening to my silly little song, that I'm hearing something that's a little bit better quality. So, but it's nice to know that it's not just my subjective, unsophisticated ears. The people that seem to know what they're talking about have said, Apple's done a nice thing here, which makes sense because I know that Apple's very serious about this, right? They put a lot of effort into this.
You've also mentioned, I haven't tried this heart rate sensor. I don't think that you have yet either, or you did a good job of talking. You've been on a treadmill, but you don't know if it was recording from your Apple Watch or your AirPods. Is that right?
Well, this is what I learned. Originally, I thought it was an either or. I'm like, why do you need it in your headphones if you're wearing an Apple Watch? Now, it's nice for people that don't have an Apple Watch or, choose not to wear one, like maybe you're wearing a Garmin or something instead. But what I learned for the first time as I was preparing my review, and I learned this because Apple executives revealed it, is that what they will actually do is, your iPhone, which is doing all of the real work, it will pull in the data not only from your Apple Watch, but also each of your two AirPod Pros 3. And so now it has three sources, and it will aggregate and it will figure out, basically, I don't know if it's literally averaging it or, putting weighted averages, but the idea is that it just has more data inputs so that it can be a little bit more precise. And again, at the end of the day, does it really matter if it says, how many calories you burn? But I mean, again, if Apple is going to sense this information and try to give you meaningful feedback, why not do a better job with it? So, so anyway,
right.
so originally I thought, well, why do I even need this feature? But, in light of this, now that I know that the heart rate sensor is being used in tandem with all the devices, like, yeah, why not get all the different things? And, and what this actually brings me to is one of the things that I do love about these new ones, and I can't remember if this is also a feature in the AirPod Pro 2 or if it's just the AirPod Pro 3, but the Workout Buddy feature, I like it because like I was doing my workout. Yeah. And so like, it doesn't, I think I mentioned last week on the podcast that when I was just doing something, I was doing like some weight training with my Apple TV, it didn't have it there. But when I got on the treadmill, like the traditional old workout, you tell your Apple Watch, I'm going to start a workout, choose treadmill, whatever, and doing it now.
Exactly.
And so like, as I'm listening to like some, I guess I was listening to a podcast, but it doesn't matter what I was listening to. Like, then the voice comes on and says, whatever encouraging thing. And then what I like about it is, like I could always glance down at my watch and see how far along I am, right?
Sure.
But I don't always think to do it. Or sometimes it'll tap me. And it was just very nice for me. I'm just sort of going along and a voice comes in my ear and said, you've just gone your first mile. Your average rate is such and such. Like, it's just telling me all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is just so much more convenient. And then when my workout is done, it said, like, one of the times it's like, that was the longest workout you've done in the last 2 months or whatever it was. And so it was like, oh, well, that's nice to know. It was just, why not get those little things just to sort of, and I like that it was personalized. It's based upon my own statistics, which of course Apple has, right, on the iPhone.
Sure.
And I thought it was pretty nice. So I'm a fan of Workout Buddy, and I like it. And it's a nice encouragement. Again, it's not telling me anything that I couldn't get if I looked at my Apple Watch or my iPhone and went down into statistics. But like, if I'm on a treadmill, I sometimes I don't want to do that. I just want to continue what I'm doing, and just to have all that stuff talk to me. Thumbs up. I like that. It was cool.
Did you notice that your AirPods Pro 3 stayed in your ears better when you were sweating? Apparently, Apple has improved the dust, sweat, and water resistance on these as well.
And I have never sweat enough. I guess that shows I should be working out more. But for the people that are like the marathon runners or stuff like that, they are saying that it is nicer. And I've seen this in the past. I have seen people say that they are such a serious athlete. Bravo to them. That with all the sweat and stuff, that it could have affected some of the earlier models of the AirPods. And I guess Apple realized that was an issue, because they have now increased the ingress protection, I guess is what the fancy words for it. And so it's to the point where, I mean, in theory, you could take a hard jet of water and spray it directly at the AirPods and they would still be working. Not that you're going to literally be doing that, but it's nice to know that they're going to have some extra protection if it's raining because you're outside, or I guess if you happen to fall into a swimming pool or something like that. It's just like the iPhones nowadays. Well,
you linked to a story here where somebody did go swimming with the AirPods Pro 3.
Yeah.
And I didn't read the whole thing, but you just mentioned that as soon as he got in the water, they stopped working, or they lost a connection with the iPhone.
I guess it's because the water interferes with the Bluetooth connection between the AirPods and your iPhone.
Take your phone with you then. Let's all go in. Let's take it all in the pool.
But from a standpoint of, did the water destroy the AirPods? Apparently not. Apparently they could do it. And so so it's nice to know. Again, do you want to wear AirPods Pro 3 while swimming? I don't think so.
Oh, why not?
But the fact that it could withstand that just tells you something, that they are more water resistant. So that's nice to know.
Okay, and the last thing we'll talk about this, because you have tried this with your wife speaking Spanish, the live translation feature. And you had a great video at the bottom of your post today from is this from Cult of Mac?
D. Griffin Jones from Cult of Mac, and he talked with Nilian from Mac Stories. And it's this, if you haven't tried it out yourself, the next best thing is watch a few minutes of this video, because you will see that Nilian will say something in French, bonjour, comment allez-vous? And then it takes a second. So it's not instantaneous in this very first version of it, but it does translate. And I know just enough French to know that it may not be 100% word for word translations, but it's close enough to sort of keep up with the conversation. And what I actually thought here is they have a funny back and forth here, not to give away the thing, but he says something about, he uses the phrase, do you understand what I'm saying in English, or is this just a word salad? we all know what that means
Yeah.
in word salad. But apparently when it did a literal translation to French, I guess that's not a phrase in French. And so she's
Right.
like, it sounds like you're talking about a salad. It's I
Yeah.
thought that was sort of funny. So it's not going to solve, idioms that are unique to a language. But I definitely get the sense that if you had someone who, they only speak French or Spanish or whatever languages are supported at
Right.
first, and eventually it's going to be Italy and Chinese and other ones too, you could get by. You could get by, you could understand what they're saying. I'll give you another example, Brett. I hope this doesn't sound creepy because I don't mean to be like a creep, but I happened to be in my office the other day and somebody was going by and they were, it was somebody who was picking up trash in the office, whatever. And she happened to be talking on her phone and it happened to be talking in Spanish. And it was quiet in my office. And you're like, if she had been, I figured if she had been talking in English, I would have understood her, right? But she was talking Spanish. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just curious. So I put my AirPods in. And again, I'm just sitting here in my office. She's just walking outside. And because I guess, even though I wasn't very close to her, because there was no one else talking, I just turned on the translation feature. And I tell you, Brett, it started to tell me, in my ears what she was saying in her phone call. And again, I'm like, okay, this is weird. I don't want to be like creeping on her. Although again, if she had been speaking in English, I would have just heard the conversation.
You would have heard it, right?
So true. I'm like, I know from personal experience, this feature does work. And so I look forward to the opportunity to use it for real. If I'm traveling foreign or, I have cousins that live in Switzerland who speak French and they speak English enough that whenever they come visit us, they just usually speak my native tongue. But it would be nice that I could allow them to speak in in the French language that they know. So I think it's a cool feature.
Okay, so this will work with AirPods Pro 2, is that correct?
Because 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Yes.
Okay, so can you do this quickly? Because I tried setting this up, and I don't know that I was able to complete it. Because what you do is, to engage this, is that you press and hold on both stems of your AirPods Pro, right? And that is supposed to start it. But then that opens the Translate app. So and then I had to go into Translate app and it kept telling me to download a language, even though I had languages already downloaded. So can you tell me how did you set this up or
so the very first time you do it, you will download languages. But it is true that you can do that trick that you talked about of like holding down both stems. You don't need to do that though.
Oh, I don't. Okay.
You're going to need to have the Translate app open on your iPhone for this to work.
The Apple Translate app, not the Google Translate.
And if you hold down your stems, it's going to do that. But if you don't hold down diddly squat, if you're just wearing your AirPods, start the Translate app. And at the very bottom right, you see that button that says live.
It says live. Yes.
If you just tap that button that says live, it will start the process and it will start the process and it will show what you were just showing on the screenshot from that YouTube video of it'll be like the conversation, like, what people are saying on both sides, stuff like that. And that'll be those are the words, right? And so you can see the words that are being spoken. And what's actually funny is you will see the written words show up on your iPhone about a second before the voice in your ear speaks those words. And so that just shows you that it's pretty quick to get those words into the iPhone. And then it takes about a second for the iPhone to say, okay, these words in French correspond to these words in English. And now I'm going to have my voice speak those words in English. And that's the sort of thing that over time, I'm sure Apple will find ways to speed that up. And so that's why I think that right now there's that little delay. Someone says something and you're waiting a few seconds before it says it in your ears. I have no doubt that in the future, that pause, that wait is going to decrease, hopefully substantially.
So when I go into live, the first thing it says is their language, and I have to select their language, and then I have to select your language, my language. So in other words, you have to tell it at least that's the first screen that I'm seeing here that it's
maybe saying. So, but I would tell you, Brett, when I was doing it the other day with the person that was walking by speaking Spanish, I didn't tell it anything. I just turned on the translation app. I tapped the live button and it knew. Maybe that's because the last time that I had used it, my wife was speaking Spanish, so maybe it was still in that mode, or maybe it detects it automatically. I actually don't know how that works.
Okay, then I have one last question on this. I was on a Zoom call with somebody a couple of days ago who was speaking French, and I had my AirPods Pro 3 in, but I was listening. That's how I was conducting the Zoom call. Does that make sense? But when she was on Zoom, she was talking French, but it wasn't like picking up on this. And so that's my question. You know where I'm going with this, right?
I know where you're going.
Does it have to be audio from the outside? Like, it can't be audio from the computer that's connected to my AirPods. It has to be outside audio that it's listening to. Is that accurate?
My understanding is that there's two ways for live translation to work right now.
Okay.
One way is the outside world, like you said.
Okay.
The other way is the one and only app that it works with is, I believe it's FaceTime. So if you are having a FaceTime video or audio, because remember, you can do FaceTime audio. Lots of times when I talk to people, like whenever I call my brother, I actually call him using FaceTime audio versus cell phone because it's just a better connection. I believe if you're using FaceTime, it'll work. But what you were using was Zoom. So if you're using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, whatever, any one of those things. Now, maybe one day they will support it. But as of right now, I think it's got to be those two things. It's either FaceTime, which means the person's not in the same room as you, or they are in the same room as you, and the sound is being picked up by the microphones on your AirPods.
And again, this is just going to get better. We've been talking about this since we've known that it was going to come around. Like, it's just going to get better, because in my mind, most of this is going to be software upgrades, because if it already can work on the AirPods Pro 2, this is really, it seems like the mechanics of this is really just using the iPhone more than anything else on there. Okay. And then the last, very, very last thing, I promise, is, have you noticed when you talk about the cases up here, and I think you've got a good picture that shows it, these new AirPods 3, although they look similar now, but I feel like in the case they sit a little bit higher. Like they fit in the case a little bit differently. You can't use an AirPods Pro 2 case for your AirPods Pro 3 because
absolutely not.
It's like it's the inside of the case is all shaped a little bit differently to accommodate the new shape of the AirPods Pro 3. But I got to tell you, I remember when we talked about this, my first AirPods Pro, because John Gruber came out with a link about how you actually get them out. Like, you put your finger behind and you pop them out. I find getting these in and out actually of the AirPods Pro 3 case is a little bit easier than it even was with AirPods Pro 2.
I've noticed the same thing. The AirPods Pro 2 and the AirPods Pro 1, they seem to snap a little bit deeper into the case. Whereas the AirPods Pro 3, I mean, you say they sort of sit out, and that is true. I mean, these are right now. Not in a way, but they're just not quite as snug. But it's fine. It's totally fine. I mean, they have the connection, they're charging, everything's good. And it does mean that it's actually easier to get them out. You don't have to do some bizarre thing where you push up. Now, I don't know if that was an intentional decision by Apple or if it was just a side effect of the way that they work, but it is a difference.
That's so cool. All right. I know we spent a lot of time on the AirPods Pro 3, but I'm sticking by this. I love my new iPhone. I love my new Apple Watch. But to me, the AirPods Pro 3 are, I think, some of the more significant advancements that Apple has made this year. And it just great to see all of these reviews. There's one last link here that you put where somebody's comparing AirPods Pro 3 to the AirPods 4, not the Pro.
The non-Pro,
Yeah. Well, this is good, and I just wanted to point this out because it is good for folks that may not need the Pro. They're happy with AirPods 4, just the regular AirPods, which are absolutely great in and of themselves. They even can do live translation at 2, apparently, right there. So this is much less expensive. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, this is a great little article here. Is this Julie? Oh, Hartley Charlton, that kind of compares these two. So if you're looking for something like that on which ones to buy, this is a good article to look at as well. Let's move on to what I think is the next best Apple product. We don't have to spend as much time on this, but both of us got the iPhone 17 Pro. I got the Pro normal size, and you got the maximum size on this. But you did a great job on going through a review on this as well, Jeff. And I think you really just kind of hit all of the high points of what people were going to be asking about here.
Yeah, I'll point. I mean, I went pretty deep on this review. I got into a lot of details here. And so if you're thinking about getting this model, I mean, this is really everything I could think of that you might want to think about here. But I'm just going to mention 2 right now. One of them, it's the thing I started with in my review, is the thermal management. This is better. I loved my iPhone 16 Pro. I love my iPhone 15 Pro before it. But Apple had been getting into a problem that those prior iPhone models, with their incredibly impressive chips, the processors in them, were getting too hot. And to the point where if it got too hot, the chip would have to sort of throttle down so you wouldn't get the full performance. It would have to make it go a little bit less oomph just to not be overheating. And Apple realized that they had an issue there. And
Still
I
got
really
warm.
think, I really think that they have addressed it here, because with this vapor chamber, which does from the videos, I talked about this last week, but or actually I have to link it in here. This video that I shared in the review, again,
Yeah.
this was actually done before. This is not talking about the 17 Pro. That he was talking about, it was some Android model that had the one of the first vapor things. But his video is excellent, talking about what is this guy's name here? Because Aldo, I don't know what his last name is, or maybe that is his last name. He goes by Aldo for this thing called No Art Studios. He put together just an incredible video with incredible graphics, and it explains how this process works. And it makes a difference between that and the fact that it's an aluminum case, which is going to be a little bit more conductive than the titanium cases. It does mean that in theory, it's not quite as strong, but I think Apple's gotten around that with the unibody design. This thing, I mean, I have totally noticed it. I have done things with this iPhone that I know with my older model, it would have been a hot potato in my hands. And now it warms up, but the heat is distributed more evenly. And there has been one of the reviews I linked to today was actually doing some tests. This was iFixit. iFixit's got all their high-end gear.
I love this post. Yeah.
And they did a test where they actually used thermal cameras, and you could see with the iPhone 16 Pro, the area of the iPhone right around that processor got super hot. And they actually said you could tell from their tests that the processor was throttling. So it wasn't going its full amp. But with the iPhone 17 Pro, the heat was distributed and the processor continued to go full speed. And I think that this might be one of the reasons why, of course, the new processor is better this year. Apple makes a new processor every year. I linked to a post from Jason Snell where he sort of does the charts of how they're better year after year. The GPU is especially impressive this year, which is nice for video, which is nice for artificial intelligence and stuff. But I think Apple has nailed it. Again, I've only had this thing for a week now, but I've done a lot of heavy pushing of this iPhone to test it, and I really think that this has worked. I mean, it's not saying it doesn't get warm, because it'll get warm, but not uncomfortably warm. And the tests show that because it doesn't cross from warm into overheating, that's better for the device. So I think that Apple really hit it out of the park on this one.
And everybody has been talking about this. And like I said, the iFixit, I hope this doesn't kill the video here, but here is the part of this is the actual vapor chamber. So iFixit always does a great job of literally prying open,
tearing it apart.
They take it fully apart, but this is the actual vapor chamber. And I like the vapor chamber in all its glory. There's a tiny drop of water in here that makes the system work. And to do that, you'd have to go back to that other video, right? You can understand how it works. That drop of water was so tiny that we didn't see or feel any water when we opened this up. So it's not like it's a waterfall happening, inside there, because it's all you need is this ionized water, whatever it is that they're using in there. But that's plenty. That's enough. That's all you need to help with some of this cooling components in here.
I think you and I joked last week that, Apple used to say, don't put water on your iPhone. It'll avoid the warranty. And now Apple's sticking the water inside of my iPhone. But apparently it's a very, very tiny amount of water. And yet that tiny drop of water, so small that I guess it evaporated as soon as iFixit opened it up, it does the job. I mean, that's all that they need. It really works. And so this is one of these things, we sort of take our iPhones for granted, it's a great iPhone, and you look at things like this, especially these iFixit takedowns, and you're like, oh my goodness, the smart engineers, not just at Apple, but their competitors too, but the smart engineers that figure out how to make these things better year after year. I mean, gosh, my hat's off to them. I mean, I know I do things as a lawyer that other people may not understand, but these people are doing stuff as engineers that just blows me away. Bravo.
Yeah. What else? Okay, so we talked about the thermal cooling.
Yeah. The other one I was going to mention is the camera. I mean, the camera, it really is a nicer system. And it's not, I mean, the marquee feature, of course, is that you can go up to 8x. And I have been playing around with it. And I tell you what, it makes a difference. Just yesterday afternoon, I was looking out my window and there was a cruise ship, because I can see where the cruise ship stopped from New Orleans. I don't know if it was Carnival or what line it was. And so I'm looking at the cruise ship and thinking that, all the thousands of people about to start some happy adventure wherever they're going. And so I took my iPhone out and I just got into that 8x mode. And then you can even do a digital zoom up to 40x, which is higher than ever before. And even though I am ridiculously far from that cruise ship and all those people, like I can totally see the people. I'm not saying that was the crispest thing ever, but like I can see those people on the deck of the cruise ship. I could never do that before. And so you're going to have a lot more flexibility if you want to get closer. But it's not just the 8X, although that is impressive. The reviews that I've been seeing, and I'm starting to see this, but I haven't done enough intense photography, is saying like, even like at 2X, like one of the reviews is like, if you compare just a 2X picture, which was taking the 1X lens and is doing what you might call cropping, but it's not really cropping because it's a 48 mega. That I've already explained that. But like 2X pictures, which is a standard thing you would do with an iPhone, are better. They are absolutely better with the 17 Pro. And I guess I should mention that the 2X, that's even something you can get on the iPhone Air too, and the iPhone 17. But so Apple, every year, Apple has, again, smart people that make the camera systems better, and they have just got incrementally better year after year. And, from much like we were talking about the AirPods, from year to year, it's not so much better that's revolutionary, although 8X is pretty cool. That's really neat. But when you look at somebody that hasn't upgraded their phone in like 3 or 4 or 5 years, which people do all the time, when you upgrade and you put those year after year camera improvements on top of each other, you get much better pictures. So I'm so thrilled that Apple continues to push the envelope on this stuff.
You had some pictures that you included in here that went all the way from 0.5x, like the wide angle, to 1x, 2x, 4x, 8x, and then you even did the macro. I like your pictures, but this other article from Macworld that you linked to was this Mahmoud Itani. This was amazing because he did several of these shots to where you had this little slider that you can slide back and forth. And just even some of the skin tones and the lighting effects in here. And I just liked he kept going further and further in on some of these pictures. But every one of them, he has a comparison of what he was using. I guess it was like
I think it's a 16 versus a 17.
The 16, that's right. He was using a 16 and then the 17 Pro Max, your camera, and just to compare. And I really just appreciated these comparisons there because you can really tell the difference. But I remember how blown away we were with the 16 camera, Jeff. And it's just to your point that you're talking about, like, how can it get better? And it just keeps getting better on this. And I know we always say this every year, but really amazing shots here. This is a great article. I'll make sure we link to it in the show notes. But if you wanted to see some of the power of the camera, this is a good article. Maybe the iPhone will throw out the first pitch at tonight's Major League Baseball game. You just threw this in right before we started recording. What is this story here? Friday Night Baseball to feature footage shot on iPhone cameras, a first for live sports broadcast. That's great.
I did not link to this in my post today because the article wasn't even posted until early this morning. But Benjamin Mayo and 9to5 Mac, I guess, got the release from Apple that, Apple on Apple TV Plus, they have Friday Night Baseball every week, right? And so for the first time ever, they are using iPhone 17 Pros. And of course, they also have their high-end cameras that you would expect to use for a national broadcast. But they're having, I think, 4 different 17 Pros. And the only difference between this 17 Pro, in fact, I'm not sure if it's a Pro or a Pro Max, and the one that I'm holding or you're holding, is that they have it connected to this Blackmagic device. Blackmagic, of course, is a high-end maker of both cameras that are used to like do Hollywood productions and other stuff, but they also make accessories for cameras. And so they have this breakout box. It's got a name, the Blackmagic Camera Pro Dock. It's $300. So again, you and I would probably not buy this, but what you can do is if you hook this thing up to the camera, and the picture you're showing now shows it hooked up, it allows it basically you could get everything wonderful about the camera is fed into this Blackmagic box, and it then goes into the professional equipment. And one of the things that they can do, and again, you and I are not going to do this for our stuff, but it has this new feature that Apple came out with this year called Gen Lock, which is a perfect time synchronization. So if you have multiple cameras, you've got the left view, the right view, the top, the bottom. If you're doing a multicam production, you want to make sure that those cameras are 100% in sync with each other, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't look right. And no, in the past, you couldn't really do that easily with iPhones. There were workarounds that people did, but now Apple has baked that in. And so you can have a production and it works really well with the Blackmagic thing, that things can be put together. And again, I don't mention this because I think that any of the people, you, me, or anyone listening to this is doing Hollywood productions. If you are, bravo to you. I'd love to hear about it. But it's just the idea of like, it's much like when I buy a car And I'm not going to buy the version of the car that's shown off in the Detroit Auto Show that's got all of the concept things in it. But the simple fact that they're pushing the envelope on that high-end stuff, those features will trickle down to me. And again, my camera is not going to be hooked up to a black magic device that costs $300. But you know what? My lenses are the same lenses that tonight on TV are going to be used to broadcast part of a national broadcast. I mean, that just shows how far we have come. The original iPhone camera in 2007, which didn't even have video and was a, crappy pictures. I mean, it has come so far that this just it's just emblematic of how what a great job Apple has done. For a couple of years now, Apple has been using iPhones to record the videos that they stream, like for their keynotes and stuff like that.
Right.
But now we're going one further. This is not just something done in a controlled environment. This is live sports that they're doing. So I just thought it was impressive. I think it says something about the 17 Pro.
It says there's going to be, this is at the Fenway Park between the Tigers and the Red Sox. There's going to be one iPhone, 4 vantage points. One, it's going to be atop the home dugout. One atop the iconic green monster left field wall. One will also be used as a roaming wireless RF camera rig. Now, quickly, you mentioned about the lenses, but I'm looking here. Inside this rig, they have some kind of a lens cover on there. Like, I don't know if that's doing anything necessarily, but I know sometimes you like to put some kind of a filter, on lenses. And I don't know if that's really doing anything from like a zoom lens or anything else like that. But I see that that's just part of it because it looks like it's attached to this little case that the iPhone is in. But again, having something so small like that, as opposed to, we remember the big cameras that used to lug around on your shoulders all the time. That's just amazing. The fact that people trust it enough. And I mean, I don't do a lot of baseball watching, but I might watch the show tonight, just the game tonight, just because I want to see if this is going to look a little bit different, or if they mention it or anything. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to do this thing. I was going to tune in for a few minutes, and they said you're going to be, I mean, of course, Apple's making a marketing thing out of this. This article says that when they switch to those iPhones as their cameras, they're going to put, like, in the bottom of the screen, it's going to say, filmed on an iPhone or something like that. So you will actually be able to tell when they're, and again, I'm sure Apple's going to do it because it's self-promotion, but, allow them to have a little humble brag that they're using their new products to broadcast a game.
Well, you can watch the game on the Apple TV app if you have an Apple TV Plus subscription. How convenient that is. Scheduled to start off at 7:10 Eastern time today. You reviewed the AirPods Pro 3. You reviewed the iPhone 17 Pro Max. You did not review the iPhone Air. You don't have one yet. Maybe one day. But you linked to some good articles. So again, we'll just take a few minutes here to talk about the iPhone Air, because now we've had people using it in their day-to-day life. And I think across the board, the reviews are excellent.
They have been. Here's the two things. If having the most battery life doesn't matter to you, because the iPhone Air battery life is going to be less, although you can put that little battery pack on it for the times when you need it, which is nice. But if you're the sort of person that's like, gosh, I'm usually around my house, or, I'm not that far away, I don't need the best ever battery. If that's you, and if you say, I love taking pictures, but like, I don't need the macro lens. I don't need the telephoto. I'm just taking regular pictures in the 1X or 2X. And what I've just said, that describes a ton of people. If you are one of those people, then the iPhone Air is a pretty good device because it feels just incredibly thin. And, one of the reviews I said, I forget if it was Ryan Christoffel or somebody else, but it was Ryan's, because he's saying, like, this feels like the new normal. He's like, once you start using this, you're like, gosh, this is the way that an iPhone should be. And I've heard other people say that they've been going back and forth between the iPhone Air and the iPhone Pro. And they're like, gosh, like every time you pick up the Air, it's like this breath of fresh air, excuse the, whatever, but it's like, this is just so nice. So, I think a lot of the people that bought those iPhones in the first week, like you and me, are more power users and they want to have all the features. But like the people that don't necessarily need a telephoto and the battery life is going to be what it's going to be, I think this Air, it's going to be it's going to get a lot of people looking at it. So it was nice to see. Oh, and we should also mention, Brett, the number one concern, not the number one, but one concern that people have besides battery life, you know where I'm going with this, was, is it going to break? And so many people will it bend, have done tests, including, of course, what's that guy, Jerry Rig Everything, that's sort of the king of these sorts of things.
That was an amazing video. Okay, we'll come back to that.
They have done the tests, and they have said, you know what? Apple has figured this out. Like with your hands, even if you're super, super strong, you can get it to bend a tiny, tiny bit, but if it goes right back into shape and it doesn't hold that bend or anything like that. And in order for you to bend it enough to break it, you would have to use equipment that's just so ridiculous that a normal person would ever do it. So if you're concerned, if I get something this thin and if I stick it in my back pocket and I happen to sit down on it by mistake, is it going to bend my iPhone so much that it breaks in half? The answer is no. I mean, Apple has seriously thought about this. They have tested for it. They have planned for it. And whatever it is that they're doing with the titanium and the body shape and everything else, it's not something to be concerned about, which is good to know.
This is what you need if you want to try to bend the iPhone Air. This gentleman, I haven't followed this channel before, but I might have to jerry rig everything. I mean, he's got a Hummer in his garage, which already I think that's cool. He has this set up, Jeff. Did you watch this whole thing?
Just watched it, yeah.
He got it to bend, but it got it to bend at 216 pounds. It takes 216 pounds to actually get this thing to crack. And let me just show you. I watched a little bit of this. So there it is, cracked. It still works. Even when he had it cracked, look at this. He cracked the front of the screen because he had this thing where he was bending. He bent it right in the middle. And it still was working. I mean, that is just mind-blowing to me after 216 pounds. Now, he mentioned...
And can I just say something about that number real quick, Brett? Just in case somebody's saying, oh, wait, I actually weigh 216 pounds. No.
That's what I was going.
Oh, okay. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean you weigh that much and you sat on your phone. Yeah, it means it's all in that one tiny, like you would not put all of that unless you're sitting on top of a pole or something like that. Right. You would not concentrate your pressure into that one point. So this is more, I mean, no regular person is going to do
Look
this.
What he's doing. I mean, he has like a full-on rig where he has designed this with like industrial equipment to break this. So he was bound and determined to make it happen some way or another. There is no way that I don't even think if you weighed twice that, I don't think you're going to have an issue with some of this. Like, it's just like what Ed Hardy says in this article here. Don't worry. There's no reason to worry about any of this. And I'm glad that you linked to that today. And again, as you were talking about, the iPhone Air, I think, is a fantastic device for a vast majority of people. It's only the cameras. It's only, I think, maybe, if you wanted maybe some extra power in there, but I don't even know if you could really tell the difference. It really is just the camera and then the battery life, like you were talking about on some of that as well.
Yep.
Okay. We can dispense with the Apple Watch Ultra 3 really quickly because I agree with this review at CNET. I tested the Apple Watch Ultra 3, and it's like a Land Rover for your wrist. I have to say, I love it. So I had an Ultra 1. I never upgraded to the Ultra 2. And I decided this year I was going to upgrade to the Ultra 3. I have been extremely happy with my Ultra. You and I have talked about this many times. The battery life, I like the size. I like the fact that I could bump up against a rock wall and I could keep on going and I didn't have to worry about it. I just liked it all around. And I got to say, I was hesitating on the pre-order button on this just because I knew the Ultra 2 didn't have enough to push me to the Ultra 1, Jeff. But the Ultra 3 was like, okay, there's this and this and this and this. And I had several bullet points. It's like, it's going to be better. I think the screen brightness is better. The screen's just a teeny bit bigger, which is great. The battery life is going to be a little bit better on some of this. I wanted some of the additional components that came with that upgraded chip that they were using, the processor. So I did go ahead and do it. But I mean, I have to sit there and think about how the difference, and probably, I think I mentioned this earlier, because I just restored the Apple Watch, from a backup, it's not like it looks any different necessarily to me. I did get the black version as opposed to just the natural titanium, but I just am continuing to be as happy as I was with the Ultra 1 and the Ultra 3. I think, again, if you look at the list, and I'm sure there's many comparisons on there, you're going to find that there's quite a bit that is different or upgraded or improved, but I can't tell you for sure or anyone that it's enough that you should or you must upgrade, especially if you've been happy with the Ultra 1. For me personally, just because I'm a nerd on this, I'm absolutely loving it. I mean, I can tell it's more responsive. It's more faster. We talked about the wrist flick last time, which I have been extremely happy with on
That's
doing
a nice
some
gesture.
Of that.
Yeah.
I've been very, very happy with that. And actually, the day after I got this, I went on like a 20-mile hike And it did great. Now I did turn it into low power mode just because I know after doing some of these hikes that in some cases the batteries go out pretty quickly. But anytime that I raised my hand and looked at it in the bright sunshine, no, not a problem. Not a problem on looking at it. The map was there. It was tracking, all my exercise and everything. Just very, very happy about the Ultra 3. And this was a great article from Vanessa Hand Orleana at CNET.
Yeah. I mean, since you hike and, I know that that's something that you enjoy doing and you do it all the time. And I didn't even realize you'd already had a chance to do it once this week.
Yeah.
But I suspect that like over time, because you do this pretty regularly, right? It's going to be, there's just, it's not a, again, we're saying the same thing for all these reviews. It's not like it's revolutionary, although you will have satellite for the first time on your wrist. Hopefully you won't need it.
I haven't tried that yet.
You often have your iPhone with you anyway, but just in case something happened to your iPhone as an extra safety measure, if you're off the grid, have satellite in the watch. But, I suspect that it's just going to be a little bit easier to see because it's 3000 nits instead of 2000 nits. It's going to be a little bit easier to see because it's a slightly bigger screen. It's going to, even if you're not using a power saving mode, or even if you are, it's got more battery life. So it's like all of those little creature comforts that make a difference over time will be nicer. And so bravo. And I know a lot of people love their Ultras like you. And so I've heard so many stories of people who, just like you, Brett, they had the original Ultra, they loved it. There wasn't quite enough in the 2 to upgrade. And like, you know what? You put together the 2 improvements and the 3 improvements. This is enough for me to go up. So
that was enough. Included in all of this is the updates to the operating system. So iOS 26 on the iPhone, the iPad OS 26, and even I've been pretty happy with the Watch OS 26. I got to tell you, I know some people, I was a little nervous about all the reviews that I saw early on that people were saying it's harder for things to read on the Apple Watch. I've been very happy with Watch OS 26 as well. Love this little quick article here from Julie Clover at MacRumors. 10 plus hidden features in iOS 26. There were 2 or 3 here that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah, some I hadn't even heard of. For example, one that she mentioned is, I don't know if you use this very often, but sometimes I use the panorama mode with my iPhone. So, you put your camera in the pano mode, and then you sort of move your iPhone from left to right or from right to left. And I did not know this, but she is reporting that it actually, you can now, sometimes in the past, if you moved your hand too quickly, you would get a message on screen saying, slow down, you move too fast, you got to make the moment last, whatever. But now apparently it is a little bit better in that. So you don't have to be quite as rigid in doing it. I did not know about that feature. One other that she mentions here, and I haven't seen this yet. I guess she knows what she's talking about. She says, see event details in the Photos app. And what she says in the review is that I'm sorry, this is not the one. It was the one that says that here, find specific videos. She says that, know how if you open up your Photos app, you can do a search and it uses sort of like an AI machine learning that actually I can say, I want to see a dog in the snow, and it will find pictures that have both a dog and a snow. But what she reports here is that not only does it search photos, it searches videos. And she says that if I search for cat jumping, not only will it find a video that has a cat jumping in the video, but I will see that relevant still frame. Like it will be the frame of the video in which the cat is jumping that it's going to show me on my phone. And if I tap it, I jump right into that part of the video. I tried this and it wasn't working for me. Now, maybe I need to wait for my iPhone to index things better, but I don't know. So I'll have to look into that. But so anyway, but she reports it. So, and there's some other things too that I hadn't seen too, and some I had known about, but it's just nice for people to find these less obvious hidden features.
My favorite is the first one that she mentioned here. Every once in a while, I'll copy a text message, but here she says, typically you would just tap on the message and you would just have an option copy, and it would copy the entire little bubble.
Right. Yeah. That's a great feature.
Now you can copy part of that text message, which I'm pretty happy about that. You can do the selective copy, which is what you can do for other items in there as well. In the Vision, we haven't talked too much about the Vision, except the fact that it's been updated to Vision OS 26. Like this little article from Jason Snell at 6 Colors, you continue to get a little bit more immersive film content, Jeff. Apparently this is a motorcycle video, I think, in here, but Jason was also talking about some additional plans coming up soon too.
Yeah, so the big news here is, everyone that has a Vision Pro, all few of us, we want more immersive content because the immersive content is amazing. And until now, it was really hard to do it. And we've talked about this in the past, that earlier this year, Blackmagic, that same Blackmagic company we're talking about, they have their fancy camera called the Ursa Cine, and they're still slow in making them, but they're starting to get them out. And so as they get them out to third parties, these people can make videos and use these incredible immersive cameras. And so one that came out this week was something, the Tour de Force is the name of it, but I hadn't even heard of such a thing. My son instantly knew what it was. That there's it's the Grand Prix for motorcycles, MotoGP. And this was a particular race that took place in France, and the rider for the country of France had never won this event in 70 years. And, not to give away the ending, but let's just say it was a happy ending. But what was impressive about this, it was immersive, and it's not like you're on the motorcycle. They didn't have any of those views, but they had, like, you are right there in the sidelines, you're right there in the pit crew, you're right there and like you feel like you were among the crowd. I mean, it's something that I would never use. You would have to have like VIP tickets, and you'd have to know somebody to even get this close to it. And yet anybody can, if you have the Vision Pro, you can just be a part of all the activity. It was a beautiful video, 30 minutes long, one of the longest immersive videos. It wasn't technically from Apple. It was technically from Canal Plus, which is one of the big, company, the TV company in France, and MotoGP itself. The two of them work together. Now, I'm sure Apple was working behind the scenes with them, but they had multiple cameras, and it was impressive. So this one came out a few days ago, and it was really good. But as Jason points out in the article, Apple had a press release where they announced a whole bunch of things that are coming out, some from Red Bull, some from other people. And so the idea is that, in fact, this one's sort of cool. The BBC has this thing called BBC Proms, which is a classical music festival. And so they're going to have like immersive videos showing people playing classical music and, piano and stuff. Like, if you're really into classical music, this is going to be like better than the best seat you could ever get in the house. And so it's fun to see these videos coming out. And again, we're not yet at the point where they're dumping like 10 new videos a day. Apple is still spacing these things out. And in fact, one or two of these videos, Apple actually announced them last year, in 2024.
Oh, really?
And they're now saying that they're coming out in early 2026. So Apple is taking their time with these videos. But as this new camera, the Ursa Cine camera, gets out there, as more people use them, as more filmmakers explosion, I feel like we're, how graphs like slowly go up and then they sort of peak, whatever that's called when a graph does that. We're like right at the kern where I'm feeling like over the next 12 months, my hope is we're going to start to see a big increase in videos, because it's not just Apple doing a great job with these and just a very few third parties, but now more people will have the equipments in their hand, and then they just need to come up with the great content. So, the technology is now there. Just find something really cool to film immersively. So anyway, I'm excited about it. Apple continues to build up their library. And what it means is that a year or two or three from now, when Apple comes up with the next version of the Vision Pro that's even cheaper and everything else, there's going to be this big library of content. It's like the same thing we saw with Apple TV Plus. Apple TV Plus started with 4 shows. There was nothing there. And nowadays, there's so much on Apple TV Plus that I can't even keep up with it. I haven't even started watching Platonic on Apple TV Plus, and I think the season's about to end, the new season. So it's like there's so much content you can't even keep up anymore.
Well, unfortunately, you won't be able to watch one show that was announced on Apple TV Plus. I know I can tell that you're not very happy with this. This was a show called Savant. And well, let's just say, based on current political issues and actions that are happening in the world, Apple decided to pull it. It's their prerogative, of course, or at least hold it. I shouldn't say pull it. They're holding it. Maybe it'll come on one day, just not right now. You had an article to Deadline in here where even some of the actors from the show, The Savant, were not happy about that.
It was just last Friday, Brett, that I posted, the things that are going to be coming to Apple TV Plus over the next couple of weeks. And I said, a week from today, we're going to get 2 things. We're going to get the new season of Slow Horses, which I'm looking forward to watching tonight.
Yes,
and we're going to get this new show. It's a limited series called The Savant, starring Jessica Chastain. And in the show, apparently she works for like the FBI or something like that. And she goes undercover to infiltrate one of these extremist groups to try to, prevent the next big disaster. I mean, it's a ripped from the headlines type of story for sure. But I mean, just last week, Apple was saying that this is coming out. And then earlier this week, they just removed it. And they haven't told us why, but we all know the reason why. It has to do with the Charlie Kirk murder, of course. And so Jessica Chastain, who's the actress, I mean, she had a very polished, statement that says, I love working with Apple, but we are not aligned on this decision. And, it is interesting. if we're going to wait until we have a world where crazy
Yeah.
people don't do horrible things because we don't want to have a
Yeah.
show about it, I mean, I hate to say this, but we're never going to have these shows. And so it's just a problem. I didn't even link to this today, Brett, but there's another show on Apple TV Plus, which I think has already had 2 seasons out, and they're about to have the third, or maybe it's had 1 season, about to have the second. But it's called Tehran. I don't know if you've ever watched it. I really enjoyed it. It was a spy
I know
thriller.
of it. Yes.
It involved somebody who works for the whatever the CIA in Israel is called, whatever their name of it is. Apple filmed the last season of it. It was a co-production with an Israeli television company. In Israel, the last season actually aired last December, so it's already finished. And Apple has not yet released it because of everything
Oh,
going on in Gaza, which of course is horrible. I
yeah.
mean, I don't want to glorify that or anything like that,
Sure.
but I guess they just decided that with what's going on in the world today, a show that might make the Israeli military look like the good guys, maybe they just weren't quite ready for that. I don't, and Iran and everything else. And so it's just, I'm not coming out hard against this. I'm not saying, oh, Apple made all this is not like the Jimmy Kimmel thing or something like that. And yet it's just a tough world. I mean, I do
Yeah.
know that you need to
Yeah.
read the room. You don't want to release something at a time where it just seems inappropriate. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it'll be interesting to see how long do we have to wait for the new season of Tehran to come out? How long do we have to wait for the show The Savant to be dropped? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Maybe it's just going to be a few weeks and then it's no big deal. But it definitely makes you think. It makes you think. It's that intersection between entertainment and this world where we're just creating
Yeah.
our make-believe world and what's going on in the headlines. It's an interesting topic.
Well, in the meantime, you can go to Slow Horses season 5. I mean, I remember watching the trailer on this. There's all kinds of things that this touches upon and deals with, but I'm very excited to start this tonight.
Me too. The initial reviews say, and I alluded to this, the people are saying, and again, who knows what the reviewers say? I might find it's the best ever, but the reviewers that seem to know what they're talking about, if you believe reviewers, they say that season 5 may not be as good as some of the prior seasons, but it still captures that magic. It crosses that line between comedy and drama, which this show always does so well, and it'd be interesting. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'll also mention, I don't think I mentioned this in my post today, but the person who is like maybe he's the showrunner or the lead writer or something like that. He's announced that he is not going to be involved with the show directly after season 5 because he's
Oh,
doing another show that's going to be on Apple TV Plus. So it's not like he's
okay.
leaving the network. And so other people,
Good.
but again, this happens to shows all the time. Some of the original writers move on to the next project, and then like the up and coming people. So there will obviously be a season 6 coming out at some point in the future.
Yay.
But I'm hoping that hopefully it will just continue to go. I love this series. This one could keep going on forever, as far as I'm concerned, as long as the actors keep doing it.
Agreed.
And so, but I love the first 4 seasons, and I'm excited to have season 5 starting tonight.
In the know.
In the
We were just
know.
talking about pictures on iOS 26, and I don't know if you have played around with this yet. I know we've talked about it in the
Yeah,
past,
it's a cool feature.
but
Yeah.
when you see it, it's just so fun. And it's great because it works on even other phones that can run iOS 26. You can get access to this. I call it the Trippy photo feature on this, but officially Apple calls it 3D spatial scenes. You can go into your photo library. In fact, this article does a good job of showing around because this has been around now for a while, at least in the public betas and everything. You go find a photo. Now, to me, the challenge here, Jeff, is finding a good enough photo or one that's like situated correctly so that you can really get the effect of this spatial scene. You find a photo, like this is a little picture here, and there's a little tiny icon. Somebody called it a hexagon. It's like the shape of a stop sign, kind of, sort of, but it has like a little landscape in it. When you see it, you'll know it. It usually is in the top right of the little picture. When you get to a photo that you want to see what this is going to look like, you tap that little icon, and then you'll see it has like a little magical that goes across it. And then you don't really notice much difference until you start just tilting the phone a little bit. And when you start doing that, it's almost like if you I'm trying to remember those first times that I put on those red and blue 3D glasses, Jeff, and I looked at a picture and I was like, whoa, this is just trippy and so cool. I'm getting that same kind of a feeling here, but without the glasses, which is great.
Yeah.
But you can do this on basically any photo. And here, Apple has a support site on this. I saw this in the context, not just in the photos, which by themselves look cool, which by the way can only be viewed on an iPhone. You can't like send this version. I don't even think you can send it as a spatial scene. I think it's just like a temporary thing that you can do, except you can go in and select a photo for your lock screen and you can make that photo into a spatial scene. And that's really cool. It's all built into the customized version there. And anyway, that's just what I wanted to pull out. The spatial scenes, not just in the Apple Vision Pro is what it's talking about here, but on the iPhone as well. And it's just really cool. Go and try it out today.
It's a cool feature. This has been in the Vision Pro since day one. So I've had this feature for a year and a half.
You've been doing this, right.
When I'm wearing my Vision Pro, you take a picture, a regular 2D, of course, 2D picture, and it does this little magic on it. And suddenly you can move around and you can sort of, it's as if it's 3D. And on the Vision Pro, it's really impressive because it brings these pictures to life in a way that's just incredible. Apple's done a very nice job translating it. It works really well. And like you say, you sort of take your iPhone screen and you sort of move left and right a little bit. And it's a neat effect. It's a gimmick, to be sure, but it's fun.
Yeah,
and it's and some pictures work better than others. Don't get me wrong. But when it works well, it adds a sense of presence to a photograph, especially if it's a photograph of like a loved one or something like that, I think it's pretty cool. So I'm a fan of the feature. And, and again, you turn it on. And if you like the way the picture looks, great. And if you don't, you just turn it back off again and you go back to your regular picture. So it's a cool picture. It's definitely worth playing around with.
If you have like sort of a landscape or you're taking some pictures where you've got trees maybe in the front and then like, maybe a couple of things a few feet away and then a background. If you have something like that gives you some of that depth, those are the pictures I find work a little bit better in the spatial scenes. But just go and try it out. It's worthwhile so that you know what's going on.
Yeah. So my tip, your tip of the week is something brand new for the iPhone. My tip of the week is something old. In fact, we may have talked about it before, but I can't remember doing it. And here is the scenario. Earlier this week, it's the middle of the week. I'm a workaholic. I'm typically, after we're done with dinner and stuff, I'm typically, working my briefs at home and stuff like that. I work too much. But the other day this week, I had nothing going on. And my son happened to be around and he's like, Dad, we've been watching some of the Mission Impossible movies on Paramount. And he's like, do you want to watch, I think we're up to 4 now. He's like, do you want to watch a movie? And I'm like, it's like a Wednesday night. We're going to watch a movie. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it just so happened that my wife wasn't feeling that well. She was up in the bedroom and our bedroom's right on top of the room that we have our TV in. And so I'm like, we can't watch a Mission Impossible movie that's going to be so ridiculously loud in my subwoofer. I'm like, that would be very rude. But then I'm like, you know what? I actually think that we could both use our AirPods. So I had my brand new AirPods Pro 3.
Time? Okay.
Yes. And so he now has my old AirPods Pro 2. And so Dad. He has, the new pair he just put some new tips on them and cleaned them off. And I was reminded that you can actually have 2 pairs of AirPods. This works with any AirPod. This even works with most of the Beats models if you have Beats headphones. And if you have an Apple TV 4K, and the Apple TV 4K is now on its 3rd generation, but it's been around since 2017. So there's a good chance that if you have an Apple TV, I hope that you have a 4K. If you're still using an HD, it's time to upgrade. But so with the Apple TV that you probably already have, and with the AirPods that you already have, I have many, many times paired one pair of AirPods to the TV. And that works well. You hold down that button at the top right of the remote and you go to audio source and you select it. But once you've got that first pair attached, this was what was new to me, is you can now hold down that button, but it's instead of going to audio sources, you'll see that at the very top right of your screen, there's like a little icon of like a picture of an AirPod, and you sort of move, click on that. And then it gives you the option to add a second listening device. And then once you do that, just follow the on-screen directions. And my son did it on his things. And the next thing you know, we are both listening to the movie, the Apple TV, and the room's completely quiet because we're just listening with our AirPods. And again, especially for like a big action adventure movie, is the booming effect of explosions quite as exciting.
Yeah,
but it's pretty good. I mean, as we talked about before, AirPods do a pretty good job with bass. Not as good as the subwoofer that's 20 years old in my house, but it's a pretty good job. And more importantly, we were able to enjoy this movie on my beautiful television, and we didn't make any noise, and nobody in the house knew that we were watching a big, obnoxious Tom Cruise action adventure movie.
in noise cancellation, or did you go into when you
I
transparency?
actually
So you
turned
could
it. I put it
talk.
on transparency mode so that we could talk.
Right, right. Okay,
And it's
that's
actually
right.
fun because sometimes one of us might want to pause the movie to say, "Oh my goodness, did you see that?" And so either one of us could just, you know how you can pause things on
Yeah,
your
you
AirPods. You
click it.
just tap one, and it worked for
Yeah.
either one of us. So he could do it,
Oh,
or I could do
neat.
it, and it would
Okay.
pause the movie that we're both watching, and then you press it again, and then it starts playing again. So again, I'm not saying this is a new feature. It's been around for a while. I just haven't used it.
I
And
didn't know you could
it
do
was totally
two.
delightful. So if you've got
Yeah.
two people, now I don't think it works with three people, but if you've got two people that want to watch something together on the Apple TV without making noise for the rest of your house, bravo, Apple. This worked really well.
I might have to try this tonight. I mean, even if my wife and I just want to be on, like sometimes it's hard, to hear with the other things
Mm-hmm.
going on, or my son's like playing games or something like that, and I'm like, okay, I could do, because I love doing it when I watch something by myself. Like my wife doesn't like to watch Foundation, so when I watch that, I
Mm-hmm.
exactly connect my AirPods now with the Apple TV. But I did not know you could do two. I just didn't even know that. That's really
And
cool. I like
you
that.
can even make it like if one person wants to have the volume turned louder in their AirPods and the other person wants a little bit softer, those are independent too. So
It's
you
just
can make it
independent,
like
right?
it's just what's appropriate for
Oh,
you. So
that's
it's a cool
neat.
feature. I was happy
Great
to find
tip.
it, and I'll be using it again.
Great tip on AirPods Pro tips. Talking about AirPods Pro, I knew this was going to take a while because we've been able to use some of these new devices now over the past week, and I'm pretty happy. I'm happy to see the reviews. I'm happy to see that you're happy. Your reviews are fantastic, and I've just been enjoying it and loving it. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot more. So we'll talk with you next week, Jeff.
Thanks, Brett. Bye bye, everybody.